Thanks very much. Just before I start, I'd like to thank Heather. As a son and a carer, trying to find support and help and understanding was a real difficult process. And as a would-be awareness campaigner from my bedroom originally, I'm really grateful that Heather took time to engage and come and meet me, came through to Glasgow to meet me, and I really want to thank her for that. It doesn't happen enough that people take time. I think time's something that's missing. And I've really enjoyed the last couple of days as a son. I know roughly what the Care Inspectorate do. I see it on the news sometimes, or and maybe for reasons that things have been brought up. But it was great to hear the passion yesterday and hear how passionate people in the Care Inspectorate are about people like my mum and my dad or my brother and my sister, about getting them the best possible care. And I want to thank you for that. It's inspiring and encouraging to know that people really do care. And I'll take that away with me from yesterday and today. Yeah. So my name's Thomas Whitelaw, and I was a full-time carer for my magnificent, beautiful, kind mum, Joan. My mum had vascular dementia. My mum passed away on the 22nd of September last year, and I cared for my mum from August 2007 at home until she sadly passed away. I stumbled into being a carer for my mum. I was, as we do, as my dad nudged me a long time ago and kind of said, is it not time you left and kind of got on with your own life? But and living my own life, and from a distance, I knew something was changing. I couldn't get my mum on the phone was the start of it, but I was putting it down from a distance to my mum getting older, and lots of other little things. But I came back to visit my mum. I came back for a reason, and not at that time to become or know about dementia or be my mum's carer. I came back because I had split up with my girlfriend. I travelled with my job pretty much 10 months of the year, around the world mostly. And like every good Glaswegian or Scottish boy does, as soon as a girlfriend chucks them, the first place to do is run back to their mums. Because she always tells you you're all right. She always puts her arm around you and makes it better. But when I came home for the first time in my life, I had to try and put my arms around my mum and make it better for her. I had no clue what dementia was. I had no clue what a carer was. And interestingly, I was caring for my mum for a year before I knew who a carer was. I was caring for my mum for a year before I knew there was such a thing as carer's allowance. I had no knowledge. But I came back, and even at the very beginning, I was broken-hearted. And I'll speak about that later, more in depth about the reason coming back. But I came back, and I was only taking a few months off. My work was quite flexible, and I thought I was taking 2 or 3 months off. And I thought, I'll make sure, I'll keep a better eye. I'll do my bit for my mum here and try and make sure I'm paying more attention. But I can only say that was the start of 5 years of personal, absolute heartbreak. I defy anybody to say that dementia, watching someone you love with dementia and the whole journey, is guaranteed to break your heart. It certainly broke mine, and it broke my spirit in many occasions also. But I started, and after the 3 months, it turned into 6 months, 9 months, and after a year, I made the decision that I wasn't going to go back to work. And that decision came from finding scraps of paper in my mum's drawer with her name on it, with her date of birth, where she lived, and writing on her arm what her name was. I mean, to have to write on your arm who you are must be terrifying. And then amongst that, we'd got my mum a diagnosis, and she was diagnosed with vascular dementia. And that was probably the start of where loneliness and isolation took complete control of our lives. We left the hospital one day to be told, your mum has dementia, someone will be in touch. But no one was ever in touch. No one ever got back in touch with us again. And that started a stumbling process. We stumbled through that. And after the first year when I made the decision, after my mum looked at me one day and asked me not to put her into a care, and I tried to promise her that I wouldn't do that, Mum. things steadily took a quick decline. And after 3 years of caring for my mum, as dementia did everything in its power to challenge and affect my mum's greatness, her chance to be included, her chance to be looked at as Joan Whitelaw, daughter, mother, sister, auntie, granny, all these things, my mum was becoming viewed and just viewed as just a person with dementia. And I was struggling to cope. And we were both stumbling towards a crisis. There was 2 people in our house who were lost, who were scared, who were desperate for someone to tell us what to do, someone to prop us up. And on amongst that as well, not quite knowing how to ask or who to ask. And that's where it kind of breaks down, in between not knowing who to ask or how to ask and it not being available to you. And that came from a lack of understanding from me, because I didn't really understand what was happening and what was ahead. But all too often, a lack of understanding from people, and many with the best intentions, many people with good intentions who didn't quite understand how we felt, who never took time to ask who we were or ask what our needs were. And that held us back. And we reached an absolute crisis one day where I was going to my mum to a CPN to get one of her memory tests, a 15-minute meeting for someone to draw on a piece of paper and ask my mum what a triangle is and what a circle is in 15 minutes. And we got the bus together and I cried. I cried the whole way down in that bus, and people were looking at us in the bus. And my mum was crying because I was crying, but she didn't quite know why, because she didn't quite know who I was, but she knew I loved her. Well, I hope she knew I loved her. And we got off the bus and we walked in and I asked for help. There was a social work department within this health centre. And I stood at the counter in tears and I asked someone to help us. I asked someone to help me care for my mum. And they handed me a post-it sticker and told me that they didn't have to do one-to-ones over the counter, that it's not in their remit, that I would have to go home and call a 0800 number and make an appointment. And my biggest issue with that is that people on the bus knew we needed help. People walking down the street could only look at us and know we needed help. And we walked back out there and I cried the whole way home in that bus, and I held my mum's hand and I thought, this is the end. I won't be able to do this anymore. But my mum fixed that. My mum gave me a squeeze of the hand and that look that she'd given me all my life, as if to tell me that I could do it. But it shouldn't have been down to just my mum. She was facing much more than I. She was facing dementia. I was only trying to support her. And I went to my bed that night and cried myself to sleep, as I had in many, many times over those 3 years. Not knowing what to do, not knowing quite what to do the next day. And I started a little campaign from my bedroom called Tommy on Tour. I worked in music before and I toured. And I wanted to do my version of a tour with a walk around Scottish towns and cities. And I was wanting people, I didn't raise any money on it. I wanted people to tell me how they coped. I wanted them to share their experiences with me, good or bad. And if they did that, I would take those letters and I would hand them into the Scottish Parliament and ask them to read them. But my personal reason was I wanted someone to show me. I wanted someone to teach me how to care for my mum and make me a better son and make me a better carer. And people have written to me in their hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And I have to say, I learned more about caring for my mum from those letters than any textbook or anybody I've met before or since. They helped guide me on the next stages of caring for my mum. And I've got a short film about that. I've got a short film with some of these magnificent husbands and wives who will read from those letters. I went out to film some of them and ask them. And I just want to tell you about these letters. I didn't collect them as a petition. I didn't collect them in protest. They were a cry for help, possibly. But every one of these letters is a love story. And I think that's where we fail people. My mum's life was a love story. Her love for her family, her love for her husband, her love for her children, her neighbours. It was full of kindness and respect and dignity. And every one of these letters, whichever way you read them, is a love story. And I think in society, Whatever part we play, if we're involved in the care or support or advice of people, it's our social duty and responsibility to keep their lives as close to a love story and as far away from a tragedy as possible. So I'd like to introduce a short film, and then I'd hopefully speak to you about some of the people who have been writing to me and tell you more about my beautiful mum, Joan Whitelaw.
Celtic Park. This stadium has seen some great action over the years, but it's changed in size and structure too. Back in the old days, well over 100,000 people would cram in here to see their football team. Nowadays, this stadium has a capacity for 60,832 people. If we were to host an event and invite every single person in Scotland who has Alzheimer's, we would still have a queue out the door. We would need another stadium. So here we are in Fir Park in Motherwell, a capacity of 13,700. So maybe if our estimates are correct, we can now get everyone with Alzheimer's in Scotland into the grounds. That's about 82,000 people that we know about. But what about the carers and their families? Ibrox Stadium holds 51,000 people, not even enough to have a carer each. Here we are at Scotland's National Stadium, Hampden Park. It seats 52,000 people, but we still wouldn't have enough space to accommodate all the people affected by Alzheimer's in Scotland today. My name is Tommy Whitelaw. I'm a full-time carer for my mum Joan, and I have been for the last 4 years. She has dementia. My previous life, just like my mum's, is all but forgotten due to this cruel and all-encompassing condition. Dementia affects more than 82,000 individuals across Scotland every year, and countless more family members. In 2011, I decided to undertake a walk. I wanted to go out and meet people who shared the same experiences of caring for someone with dementia like I have. I visited workplaces, football teams, and met with politicians. But most of all, I collected letters and emails from people who are caring just like me. So many people have shared their experiences with me of what life is like living with and caring for someone with dementia. The letters I collected have inspired me, and I hope they will help you understand the massive impact that dementia has across our whole society.
I look after my husband, the husband I've lost. I've done the grieving for him, and I'll never get him back. I've lost the future I was hoping for. It's not really your husband anymore. When I looked at the future ahead of me, I think, just forget it. To get through, you just have to deal with one day at a time. I feel very lonely and isolated with no one to talk to most of the time.
Before Ian took dementia about 4 years ago, we used to talk about the things we would do when he retired, but sadly we never got to do anything. I am the mother figure and Ian is the child instead of being husband and wife. It took me a while to realise that I was a carer, as I felt that it was my duty, but I am a carer.
I looked after my wife for the last 7.5 years. The worst thing I hated is when I woke up in the morning and my wife asked me who I was. I told her I was her man, and she says, "No, you're my brother, what are you doing in my bed? Are we married?" "Yes." I got this every morning, and it was heartbreaking. I had my retirement planned, but when my wife got dementia, my world collapsed around her about me. And finally the doctor told me that my wife had to go into a home, which broke my heart.
Being a carer for such a long time had a massive impact on my life. The need for informal carers will not disappear, and most people want to do it when it comes their way. But I believe that the strain on carers is unknown and largely ignored. The cost of paying for informal carers would be enormous, and I understand that it would be an unbearable strain on resources. But some thought has to go into supporting willing carers to prevent them from having a physical or mental health illness because of their input.
So while I'm here, it's Dementia Awareness Week, and I think I want to say something about dementia. My mum's been cared for this week in Lambhill Court Nursing Home, and that just happens to be the school my mum first attended 66 years ago when she was 5. When I was down there last night, I thought about my mum getting in the doors of that as a school 60 years ago. And you go to school to learn and absorb information, and you meet new friends, and you discover love, you discover hate, you discover the moon, the sun and the stars. Then you go to high school and you meet new friends, you lose friends, and you keep educating yourself, and you absorb all this and you take it in, and it builds you into the person you are. Then you go out and you get a job and you work hard, and for every pair of shoes you've got, you give your children 2 pair. And for every jacket you've got, you buy your children 2 jackets. And you meet a man and you fall in love with him. And you love him for 44 years, and you nurse him when he's dying. And your heart is broken when you lose that man. And then 66 years later, your son takes you back through the same doors of the school that you attended, and you forgot every single bit of that 66 years. And that's the tragedy of dementia. My mum doesn't remember all those good points, bad points, happy points, sad. And she can't remember my dad, the man she loved for 44 years. And that's the most heartbreaking thing about this illness. So I just want to say that, and that's my wee mum, the hardest working wee woman I've ever met in my life. But my wee mum's the same as 80,000 other people who are struggling with dementia and people who are caring for them. I made that film for a specific reason, and not absolutely not in protest. These are love stories. They're not protest stories. They're love stories. They're the love of a husband for his wife, or a wife for her husband, or a daughter for her mother, whatever these are. And I just wanted to show you that, because that's the impact it has on families if they're not given the right advice at the right time. And time keeps coming up. You know, most people aren't asking for a miracle. They're asking for a bit of time and someone to take time to listen, advise, discuss, and be part of. That's what people are asking for in these letters. And I'd just like to say a couple of things about some of the people in the film. Irene speaks about mental health and physical.
My mental health was questioned every single day caring for my mum, and probably still isn't to this day as I look back. I feel almost tortured sometimes because I keep meeting amazing people and I keep hearing about great things, but I didn't know about them. I didn't know about them at the time, and I missed opportunities that would have benefited my mum. And that's why we have to speak up and celebrate good things also. We have to publicise the chances that are available to people. No one should be allowed to reach a crisis. We fail every single person that we allow to reach a crisis before we help, before we support them. And the numbers, that film was made when I did my walk at the end of 2011. And I think I said 82,000 people have a diagnosis. And I think the new figures released just now are 86,000 people that we know of have a diagnosis of dementia. And I think there's another really interesting sentence in there from John Cashman, apart from his heart being absolutely broken, which tells the biggest story here, that the doctor told him his wife had to go into care. And I think if we don't put the right support, guidance and opportunity, we all deserve to make these decisions with the clearest of heads. And if caring at home or residential care, or if someone's in hospital, we should be part of that discussion. John's forever haunted by that the doctor told him that his wife. And if residential care is the right way and the best for the person, absolutely. But we should be allowed to make it with clear heads. We should be given the advice, the information and the understanding to allow us to make the best and right decision. And I'm quite uncomfortable with that line that the doctor told me. It makes me feel uncomfortable. And I spoke earlier about collecting letters and coming home to visit my mum because I had been chucked by my girlfriend. and the reason for that was I'd been going out with my girlfriend for about 8 years, and we both travelled. We both travelled with our jobs, and my girlfriend kept trying to tell me, and I won't go through the whole list because we could be here for the whole day, that I had to get my act together, that I had to grow up, that I had to stop my, this list of things that I was affecting her life with. And the more she shouted it at me, the less I heard her. And the more she tried to talk to me about it, the less I heard her. And even in the most intimate moments when she almost tried to plead with me, I always managed to tell her, it's fine, I'm going away for 2 months. And I promise you when I get back, we will sit down and we will fix this. My girlfriend, we were getting older, she wanted to have children, she had plans for her life. And I was included in them, our life. And I always managed, and I got away with that for far too long. I got away with that for 2, possibly 3 years, of always promising to listen. And the last time I was going away, I was going to America for 3 or 4 months. And when I got there, I opened my suitcase, and there was a letter inside it. And nobody had ever sent me a letter. Nobody had ever written, from the generation of barely talking to people anymore unless it's Facebook. But she sent me a letter, and every single thing she said in that letter was completely true. That I was holding her back, that my inability to listen was having a massive impact on her life, that my attitude and my unwillingness to change was affecting another human being's life. And she was right. It was uncomfortable reading, but it was absolutely true. And that's what this is about. It's about how our actions, how our ability to listen or not to listen have a massive impact on the life of others. And she was right, and we split up, and I miss her. My heart was broken, but she was absolutely right. I had held her back. I wasn't bringing any benefit to her life. And that's the part we play. If we love somebody, we should be bringing benefit. We should be encouraging them and celebrating them and looking after them. And that's why I wanted to collect letters, because a letter made me understand how my actions were holding someone back. And I thought, if I can collect the letters from husbands and wives and daughters, and I can ask the NHS to read them, I can ask the Care Inspectorate to read them, I can ask the government to read them, maybe they'll understand the impact that this can have. Because they're life stories. They're absolute life stories. These letters are incredible. You hear how a husband met his wife, the first dance they had, and bringing up their children. And it's beautiful. And then dementia comes, and the tone changes, and the understanding changes. And I often look at them and think, if someone that I've met maybe in this room today or yesterday, had just walked in at that point, they could change the next part of that letter. They could keep it closer to a love story by giving them advice and guidance, propping them up, a shoulder to lean on. And it's not changing a letter. If you read them, you could change someone's life. And that's the ability that every single person in this room has today. Everybody in their job that you do as a care inspectorate, but in your community and across your family, you have the ability to keep people you know and strangers' lives as close to a love story as possible. And I want to speak about some of the letters that people sent me. I was contacted by two sisters who stay somewhere in the middle of Scotland, and they asked me to come and visit them. They told me that their story was so tragic that they didn't want to just send it. Could I come to their house and collect it? And I got the train through one day, and I knocked on their door. And when the door opened, one sister was standing so angry and, ready for a fight and agitated, and just the anger, the door was full of anger. And the other sister, her head was down. And you only had to look in her eyes to see how her heart was broken. She couldn't lift her head off her shoulders. And I had been both of those sisters at different points caring for my mum. Sometimes in the same day. I had been angry, I had been scared. In fact, I think I was scared every single one of those 5 years. I think I spent the whole time caring for my mum being fearful. But I sat down with them, and on their table, on their dining room table, was a mass of correspondence about a human being, about their beautiful mum. A correspondence of a fight, of misunderstandings, of lack of understanding. And I won't go in to the detail, because it's not for me to go into the detail of what the fight was about, but it was dreadful. And I sat and I couldn't believe it, and I thought back to my own house, and in my dining room table was hundreds of people's letters. My table was covered in correspondence from hundreds of people, but they had a table of correspondence about a person, and not good correspondence. And I went home on the train that day, and I couldn't get them out of my mind. And when I was going to show the film at Parliament to hand over the first set of letters, I invited 15 of the families who'd sent me letters to come with me to hand them over and tell their story. And about 3 weeks before I was going, I got one of the most beautiful letters you could ever wish to read. And it was from the same two sisters. It was absolutely glorious. And it was all about a consultant. They'd sat down with a new consultant from a hospital who had changed absolutely everything. And you've got a letter full of tragedy and a letter full of just love. And it was amazing because their mum, obviously, we have no cure for dementia. Their mum still had dementia. It was still the same two sisters. And that wasn't a policy. That wasn't a strategy. That wasn't an evaluation for them. It was a human being. It was someone who understood and took time to listen, discuss, and advise. And that's the other ability that everybody in this room has today. They have the opportunity to be that consultant, to keep somebody's life on track and support them and advise them. And I've had the same examples with myself in my mum's journey, in our time with my mum. Changes came fast and furious. And most times, just as I thought we were maybe getting the hang of understanding and managing, we'd wake up and everything would change again. My mum, something would change, and it would change that quickly, that everything had changed, and I had to try and relearn, and we had to try and regroup. And I got up one morning, and my mum had an accident in her bed. A strong, beautiful, kind, dignified lady, the kindest person you could ever meet, had an accident in her bed, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. It had never happened before. My mum had always said to me, toilet. A lot of her vocabulary was gone, but she could tell me or she would go. And my mum never asked to go to the toilet ever again since that day. It was that quick. And I stood there and I tried to get my mum and I tried to clean her and I got her in the bath. And I didn't know what to do because we're questioning here, how did my mum feel about this? And how did I feel about this as a son? And I got my mum in the bath, and I phoned up to try and get an incontinence nurse to come. But I was put on a waiting list. That waiting list ended up over 20 weeks before I got a visit. But I was told, actually, if I phoned up every Monday, I would get pushed to the front of the queue. And someone delivered some pads, but this question of dignity and kindness and respect and understanding, and was I doing the right thing? And I got my mum, and I was trying, and every day. And for the first 6 weeks, I bathed my mum with my eyes closed because I didn't know how she would feel about her son cleaning and the privateness of a lady. And I would fill the bath up with so many bubbles that just her head would stick out because I wanted her to be treated with dignity. I wanted her always to be taken, my mum always to be taken into account. And I was bathing her one day, and I'd phoned and got in touch the CPN to get a district nurse because my mum had some bed sores, some sores, because she was incontinent. And the district nurse was coming out to visit. And I was in bathing my mum, and the door went, and I shouted down the stairs, I'm bathing my mum just now, who is it? And I knew the district nurse was coming, and I wanted my mum to be as clean and dignified and smell beautiful, her hair to smell beautiful before people, as she always did, but I wanted to make sure. And she said, it's the district nurse, and I shouted her up. And the way up the stairs, I just couldn't stop crying. I couldn't stop crying because I didn't really know what I was doing. And someone was going to see me not knowing what I was doing. And she walked in that door, and she helped me bath my mum, and she helped me lift her out, and she helped me get her onto the bed, and she helped me dry her, and she showed me how to bath her with dignity. She showed me how to lift her. And when she sat down and we got my mum all comfortable, she sat me down and she put her arm around me and she told me I was doing okay. And nobody had ever said that to me. Nobody had ever showed me how to do those little things. And nobody had ever reassured me that I was doing okay. And that's remarkable, isn't it? Because before she walked in my house, I didn't know if I could continue to do that for my mum. And when she walked down those stairs, I knew my chest was back out, and I knew that I could bath my mum for as long as she needed me to bath her. And once again, that wasn't a strategy or a policy. It was the kindness, the understanding, and the time of another human being to sit down and say, I can see where you are. I can help you. I can make this better. And I'm grateful for her. And if I walked out this room today and I saw her across the road, I would go and shake her hand and I would tell her thank you. And if I saw her tomorrow, I would tell her thank you again. Because there was another problem in that. My mum was fearful of people. I did my mum's personal care for two reasons. Because first, I was absolutely furious that I was on a waiting list for someone being incontinent. But secondly, I couldn't get guaranteed the same core people to come and help me do it. And as much as I was uncomfortable with it, my mum was fearful of people. Even when the district nurses came in and they had to come in to help with my mum, she wouldn't take her eyes off her boy. And that was it. She looked at me as if to say, is this okay? And I could tell her it was. And that reassured her, and that kept her from fear, that kept her feeling safe, and that let her know this was okay. But I couldn't get guaranteed the same people. And my mum, who lived a life of kindness and dignity, deserved that. I absolutely believed she deserved, because that would have helped me with the same core people. Because they could have let me know if sores were changing, or if they would have got to know my mum. My mum was unable to speak at this time. She spoke very rarely. But they would have got to know my mum's physical condition. They would have got to know about her. She would have then looked at them with those eyes that she looked at me at and thought, I feel safe here. She wouldn't have to look over their shoulder, because she would learn. She would understand that they were being kind and they were trying to help her. But if you can't get a guarantee of the same people, that's a question of dignity, respect and kindness. But in many ways, that unfortunate case created some of the most special moments with my mum. I loved pouring water over her back, and she hadn't spoke for days and she would say, lovely. I mean, that's a memory, isn't it? That's the only words you maybe have heard for 4 days. And when she looked in my eyes, that told me we were okay. That's the greatness about mums and dads. Even when they're facing everything that's against them, they make it better for their children, no matter how young or old their children are. And that's why we as a society have to respect and treat every mum and dad in this country with the same kindness and love that they give to their children. That's our absolute duty to do that. And because I do collect letters, I've brought one that I'd like to read out to you. Unfortunately, I'm getting older and I've just started needing reading glasses, and I got these for £1, so you have to forgive me. I mentioned earlier about these letters not being a petition, and they're not. In every single letter I've received, the word love appears in it. And it appears once, twice, or 3 times. And even if the word love doesn't, it's written by love. The story is about love. But it's matched in just about every letter by loneliness, isolation, and understanding. And a lot of that comes from, I don't understand, can you help me understand what's happening here? But also about the understanding of people that we engage with. And that, if we have, that they're crucial how we engage with people. And caring for my mum, we had a big family, but our life, our chance to be part of our community and family and friends was replaced by loneliness and isolation. And most of our interactions over the years were when my mum was more able, when we visited a clinic or a podiatrist or a CPN or to the hospital, or when someone came to visit, usually concerned with my mum's health. In between that, it was just pretty much mum and the two of us. So these interactions we have with people are absolutely crucial, because they're not just about those 15 or 20 minutes. They decide the next month or 2 months for us. Because how we have those interactions, when that person walks out the door like the district nurse, it'll lift us up, it'll give us strength, and it'll carry us on. But if it goes in the opposite direction, it'll knock us back down on our knees. If those interactions go the wrong way, it'll hold us back. So that's the importance that people make. It's that every word and every interaction and every 5, 10, 15 minutes or an hour is the ability or chance to change someone's life. Excuse me. I just want to read quickly a very short letter that was sent to me, and this is the words in this letter appear. The letters come from a page long to 10 pages long to 20 pages long about people. And this is a letter I received in March. And I'm going to have to put the glasses on here, but I will take them off immediately. It says, "Dear Tommy, I'm writing to see if anything can be done to help me. I am 80 years of age and my husband is almost 77 and he has vascular dementia. And life is very, very tough for me as his wife and his carer. My husband is in the middle stages of dementia. As I said, I'm finding it very tough and there is no one to share or help me get through this. I feel so very low at times and so very, very lonely. I need a human, listening, understanding ear. None of my family or friends seem to understand. Only another carer or someone who understands dementia would know what this is like. We have been married for 53 years and had such a happy marriage until my husband took dementia. Now I'm losing my marriage and my husband. Can you please come and help me?" I don't know where to start with what's wrong with that letter. But the biggest thing that's wrong with it, that she had to write it to send it to me. I'm sitting in my bedroom feeling as lonely and as sad, as isolated. That letter should be about, we were married for 53 years and my children have been an absolute nightmare, but I still love them, they're still good kids. It should be, and it should be about, it shouldn't be about being so lonely and unable to get help or unable to ask for it. And I think that's where the problem for society comes in. I think we've been in here for 2 days and it's been so encouraging and inspirational to hear the discussion. But until we take that discussion out of this room and across a wider society, people will still have to send letters like that. People will still be married for 53 years and love and bringing up children and be allowed to fall apart a door away from their neighbours, a street away from their family. And there's another interesting thing actually I would like to say about the letters. The percentage of people who become lone carers, the impact it has, and I don't think that's just specific to dementia. I absolutely don't. But that we allow it as a society to break down and break this family unit apart. And that's the part why we have to celebrate that district nurse and we have to celebrate that consultant. And we have to celebrate the people in this room that are going to walk out here next week and who last week and next week and the week after and the week before made it better for someone. That's an amazing thing to be part of. And anybody who does that is a remarkably kind person. And I'm grateful that you do it. And I'm going to just 2 things that are really important to me as a son about my mum and about what I'm trying to tell you today. Is my mum's name was Joan Whitelaw. She was born on the 15th of the 7th, 1939, and she passed away on the 22nd of the 9th, 2012. Her mum died when she was 4, and her dad died when she was 7. And her big sister, who was quite a bit older, who had 10 children of her own, said to my mum, I will care for you. I will put my arms around you. I will keep you from fear. I will help educate you. I will comfort you. I will be there for you. You see, that's caring. To me, that's what caring means. That's caring for someone. I will keep you from fear. I will love you. I will support you. I will be there for you. And she did that. She brought my mum up with her own 10 children, and she was treated like a wee princess because she was special. She'd been brought in, and all the family loved her. And that was the building blocks. That relationship was the building blocks that made my mum the most kind, remarkable person that she was. That made my mum who she was. And then my mum went out and she left school and she became a seamstress. And she made that wedding dress that was in that film. She made it with her own hands. And she looked beautiful. But she made it. She didn't have any money to go and buy one. But she made it with her own hands. And she met my dad, her only ever boyfriend. And that doesn't happen a lot. I mean, I've been chucked by every girlfriend, so I'm not going to fit that category. But that's a remarkable thing, to meet someone and fall in love and support them. And she cared for my dad. My dad built ships. My dad worked in the Clyde. He was a shipbuilder. He was a proud man. And she comforted him and she cared for him when he was dying. And she looked after him. And when my dad passed away, I thought my mum was going to die of a broken heart. And I still question to this day, what is crueler, to die of a broken heart or not remember why your heart was broken? That question is in my mind all of the time. And my mum was remarkable. When my dad, the last years of his life, he was unable to walk a great distance. He was breathless and lots of health issues because he was worked so hard. And my mum went out and she worked in Paisley in the mill night shift, and she went out every night, 10 o'clock at night, back in at 6 in the morning, and was there for her family and took nothing. She really took nothing for herself, my mum, but she gave it to her children and her family. And that's kindness. And when my dad died, in the following years after that, until me coming home and dementia coming, that felt like the end of that love story. It felt too hard for me as a son to continue the love story that started when her big sister put her arms around her and said, I will care for you. It felt too hard for me to continue what should have been a love story from the beginning to the end, but it didn't feel like it. Too often, it didn't feel like it. And that's a really short description of Joan Whitelaw. It's quite brief just now. But everybody in this room now knows more about my mum than anybody involved in her care in the last 5 years. Because nobody ever asked me who she was. Nobody ever asked me what made her smile, what made her cry, what made her feel safe, what made her feel scared. And if you don't answer these questions and if you don't ask these questions, how can you really care for someone? How can you care for someone from a diagnosis or an evaluation form? And the saddest thing about that is they missed the chance to meet a remarkable woman who would have given them so much more than she would ever ask them to give. And that's the sadness. That's when we get care wrong, when we know nothing about the person, when we don't know about how hard she worked and how kind she was and what made her feel safe. And that's the theme of the letters. These questions have to be asked. That engagement has to be there. That inclusion, that partnership, that kindness and that understanding. Because without that, we stand here today like me, feeling let down and feeling broken-hearted probably forever now. And before I go, I just want to mention on a good note, which was in the last couple of weeks in my mum's life, the last 6 weeks, my mum wasn't in hospital often. Very, very few times, my mum, but she was admitted 4 times in the last 6 weeks for a week at a time. And in the last of that, I was bringing my mum home and I was trying to have a discussion with the hospital about where we were with my mum. And the discussion always just seemed to be, well, it's kind of end of, what does that mean? But it's dementia, we can't really. Well, when my dad got told he had cancer, they told him he had 9 months to live, and he lived for 9 months and 3 days. But I could never get anybody to discuss it. It was always just pushed towards dementia. And my mum was unable to swallow. She couldn't take fluids or hard solids. She could take soft solids or fluids with a mixture. And my mum came out on the Friday afternoon And they forgot to put in my mum's bag the mixture for me to mix for my mum. But they also forgot to put it on the prescription they gave me to take to the chemist. And I got there and we only had, there was a tiny little tub in it, and from the Friday to the Monday. And I ran up to the chemist, which I'd been getting into for 5 years. I was never out of it caring for my mum, you know, with all these different, from diabetes. I was in it all the time. But they wouldn't give it to me. Only a hospital can prescribe it. And I stood crying, I stood asking them, it's a Friday, and they said, we can't do it. And I phoned the GP and he said, I can't prescribe that. It only can be prescribed by a hospital. But while my mum was in, the speech and language therapist was showing me to change the texture for my mum. And she said to me, there's my number, if you're ever really scared, because she knew I was scared. I knew my mum was dying. She said, if you're ever really scared or it's not working, there's my number, just phone me. And I ran round the house and I looked out her number and I phoned her. And she drove from the Southern General Hospital to my house. And she sat there for 3 hours, holding my mum's hand, reassuring us, showing me how to do it, making sure my mum was getting enough hydration. And about 4 weeks after it, she sent me a letter after my mum passed away. She'd read my wee blog, actually, and she sent me a wee letter, and she said, I've worked in hospital wards all my life, and I've not spent much time at home care or with people. She says, but I have to say, it was an absolute privilege to meet your mum. It was a privilege to sit beside your mum and hold her hand, and it was a privilege to help you in those last weeks of your mum's life. And I think that's what sums it up. She's completely right, isn't she? It's a privilege. She's absolutely right. It's an absolute privilege to be in the lives of other people. It's an absolute privilege to support and care for them. It's an absolute privilege to guide them. And I think she summed it up. It was a privilege. It's been a privilege to speak here today. And I just want to finish that. Too many people viewed my mum as just a person with dementia. And her name was Joan Whitelaw. And not enough people asked that. Thank you.